My sister poured a pot of scalding Cajun gumbo over my right leg, then cried harder than I did. Mom wrapped both arms around Emily. It's all right. Your sister is tough. She knows you didn't mean it. My fiancé, Elliot, remained at the table with his fork in his hand. Run it under cool water, he said. Stop embarrassing yourself. Golden comments floated across my vision. Emily only got excited because she loves Daphne so much. Her mother has a sharp tongue, but Daphne is secretly her favorite. Elliot cares too deeply to show it in public. I had seen the comments for as long as I could remember. When Mom forgot my school performances but attended every one of Emily's. The comments said she trusted me to be independent. When Elliot canceled our anniversary to help Emily move furniture, they said he was already treating my sister like family. For years, I believed the golden words over my own life. I looked at the blisters rising beneath my dress and wondered whether the blind person was me. The pot had struck the back of my chair before the gumbo tipped. I fell, hit my head against the table, and landed beside a broken glass. My leg burned from knee to ankle. Several shards cut into my palm when I tried to push myself up. Mom, I said, call an ambulance. She did not move. She wiped Emily's tears instead. You won't die from a burn. Stop frightening your sister. The comments agreed. Why isn't Daphne comforting Emily? She didn't do it on purpose. I looked at Elliot. Please call for me. He scooped more food onto his plate. His hands were perfectly steady. Emily burned her hand once and managed with water. You're older. How can you be weaker? Emily's burn had been a small red patch. Mom rinsed it, wrapped it in gauze, and cooked special meals for 5 days. My sister crouched beside me and reached for my arm. Her fingers pressed the injured skin. When I cried out, she pulled back and began sobbing again. Hit me if you need to, she said, just don't stay quiet and make me feel worse. Every guest turned toward her. I remembered those tears. Last year, Emily accidentally poured boiling water over my hand. The year before, she pushed past me on the stairs, and I fractured my tailbone in the fall. Before that, my college acceptance letter disappeared from the mailbox and reappeared torn in her wastebasket after the deadline passed. Each accident injured me. Each apology transformed her into the person who needed comfort. Mom checked her watch. This is Emily's birthday. Look at the scene you've made in front of our guests. The golden words called me selfish, immature, jealous, and dramatic. My right leg had gone numb beneath the pain. Blood ran from my palm. Nobody had called for help. I began to laugh. At first, it was only one breath. Then my shoulders shook until tears ran down my face. Elliot finally put down his fork. What's wrong with you? I'm seeing clearly, I met his eyes. The engagement is over. The comments filled my vision so densely that I could barely see him. She'll regret it. No one else will want her. Elliot has given her everything. His chair scraped the floor as he stood. Stop this. My mother came all the way here for the party, and you choose today to humiliate us. Your family matters. My leg doesn't. His mouth opened, then closed. The comments explained that he was bad with words, that men often sounded cruel when they were worried, that his silence proved how much I had hurt him. I asked Mom whether she had ever loved me. What kind of nonsense is that? He snapped. Emily burned me, and you comforted her. She pushed me down the stairs, and you comforted her. You have never once asked whether I was afraid or in pain because you always make everything bigger than it is. Emily cries because she feels guilty. Why can't you understand that? I looked at my sister. Did you do it on purpose? Emily hid behind Mom's shoulder, tears shining on her face. You're my sister. How could I ever hurt you on purpose? Maybe every time was an accident, I said, but none of you cared enough to stop the next one. I braced my left hand against a chair and stood on my uninjured leg. I moved toward the door, using the furniture for balance. Mom ordered me to stop. Emily cried for forgiveness. Elliot gave me an ultimatum. Walk out now and don't come back. They gave me pain medication, cleaned the wounds, dressed the burns, and explained that I needed monitoring for infection and fluid loss. Where is your family? The doctor asked. I don't have one. The hospital was short on rooms, so I slept on a temporary cot at the end of a crowded hall. The woman beside me was recovering from surgery. Her husband visited every day with a thermos and adjusted her blanket whenever it slipped. According to the comments, Mom was searching the city. Emily had cried herself unconscious, and Elliot had not slept. My phone showed no missed calls. Emily's social media showed her smiling with birthday roses. A tiny accident couldn't ruin such a beautiful day, her caption read. Mom commented, "My sweetest girl." Elliot liked the post. I stared at the screen until it went dark. On the third day, the woman beside me shared her chicken soup. "Someone should be bringing you food," she said. The comments told me to go home for Mom's soup. Mom had never made soup for me. She made it for Emily because Emily was too thin. I had been thin for 20 years. I managed 3 spoonfuls before my stomach cramped. The woman quietly saved the rest for later. She did not demand gratitude or ask me to forgive anyone. Elliot appeared on the 5th day, carrying lilies. "Why is your leg wrapped like it's so serious?" he asked. "Leave." His expression hardened. "I took half a day off to come here. What more do you want?" I looked at the bouquet. "Do you remember that I'm allergic to lilies?" He stared at the flowers as if seeing them for the first time. For 3 years, I had reminded him. The comments called it a small detail men naturally forgot. "My lawyer will contact you about ending the engagement," I said at the door. He stopped with his back to me. "Your family won't return the $300,000 in wedding gifts. Then I'll repay it with what? That's no longer your concern." He left. I gave the lilies to the nurse's station before the pollen could make breathing harder. A week later, I requested discharge because my credit card was already over its limit. The doctor arranged outpatient dressings and warned me to return if I developed fever, spreading redness, or worsening pain. Leaving was not medically ideal, but remaining was no longer financially possible. I bought a coach ticket to Domina. The trip would take 24 hours. Everything I owned fit into one backpack, but comments called me insane. Then announced that Mom, Emily, and Elliot had reached the station. I did not look up until I was through the gate and seated beside the train window. Mom ran onto the platform and pounded on the glass. "Dad, get off the train." Emily followed, crying so hard Elliot had to pull her forward. He stopped behind them in the dark blue coat I had chosen for him. The comments erupted. "They came. This proves they love you. Get off before it's too late." The departure whistle sounded. For 22 years, their tears, promises, and the golden words had always been louder than what happened to my body. I looked at the 3 of them through the glass. Then I raised my hand, pushed out my middle finger, and mouthed "Go fuck yourselves," and smiled as the train drove away. The platform disappeared into the distance. For the first time in my life, I didn't wait for someone to chase me. I didn't wonder whether I'd misunderstood. I didn't read the comments. I simply watched the city shrink until it became another blur beyond the window. The golden words exploded across my vision. "She'll be back in 3 days. She can't survive without them. She's just throwing a tantrum." Then, nothing happened. 3 days passed. I didn't go back. The comments began arguing with each other. "She's just being stubborn. Give it another week. Elliot will forgive her first." Domina wasn't glamorous. It was smaller, quieter, cheaper. I rented a single room above an old bakery whose owner only asked 2 questions. "Can you pay rent? Can you climb stairs?" I answered yes to both. Then welcome. She never asked why I limped. Never asked why I woke screaming when the burn dressing stuck to my skin. She simply left fresh bread outside my door every morning. Recovery was ugly. Every dressing change felt like someone peeling my skin away. Physical therapy hurt almost as much. My scar tightened every time I tried to bend my knee. The doctors warned me that I would probably carry the scar forever. Unlike everyone else in my life, they never told me it wasn't that bad. I found work answering phones for a small publishing company. The pay wasn't impressive, but nobody screamed. Nobody compared me to anyone else. Nobody expected me to apologize for existing. Every paycheck felt like another brick in a house I was finally building for myself. Then something strange happened. The comments changed. Not all of them. Some still insisted I was selfish. Some still defended Emily. But others questioned things. Wait, 15% burns? Didn't they leave her on the floor? Why didn't anyone call an ambulance? Why didn't Elliot know about her allergy? The golden text flickered like it couldn't decide what story it wanted to tell. 3 months later, a notification appeared on my phone. Emily wanted to tag me in a post. Against my better judgment, I opened it. She had uploaded an old childhood picture. "My sister stopped talking to me over one mistake. Family means forgiveness. I miss you every day." 20,000 likes. Thousands of comments. Poor Emily. Some siblings are so ungrateful. You can tell she's the victim. Then, one new comment climbed to the top. "Didn't your sister end up hospitalized with 2nd-degree burns?" Another replied. "Wait, wasn't this the family that never called an ambulance?" Another. Someone found the fiancé's deleted post. He admitted she walked to the taxi by herself while burned. Emily deleted the post within an hour, but screenshots had already spread. The comments above my own vision became chaotic. Who leaked that? That wasn't supposed to come out. Why are people changing sides? For the first time, the golden words sounded uncertain. A month later my phone rang. Dad. Not Mom. Not Elliot. Dad. He had been absent for most of my childhood, working overseas and choosing silence whenever Mom favored Emily. I almost declined. Instead, I answered. Daphne. His voice cracked. I've been reading the hospital records. I said nothing. I didn't know it was that serious. You never ask. Silence. Finally, I should have. Yes. I failed you. Yes. Another silence. I'm not asking you to forgive me. Good. I only wanted you to know I'm divorcing your mother. I blinked. What? I spent 22 years convincing myself that keeping the peace made me a good father. It didn't. I chose the easier daughter. I chose the louder tears. And I lost my real child because of it. He quietly added, I don't expect another chance. The line disconnected. The comments erupted again. Parents can change. Call him back. He deserves forgiveness. I smiled. No. The golden words froze. For the first time, they didn't know what to say. And for the first time in 22 years, neither did I. Because my life had finally become something they couldn't predict anymore. The first few months in Domina were strange. Just strange. Nobody knew my history. Nobody looked at me and saw Emily's sister. Nobody had already decided who I was before I opened my mouth. At first, I didn't know what to do with that. The first time my neighbor asked if I wanted to join them for dinner, I almost said no out of habit. Then I realized nobody was waiting for me to be useful. They just wanted my company. So I went. It was a small apartment gathering. Bad music, cheap wine, too much food, and people arguing over what movie to watch. It was fun. And I loved it. I started doing things I had always wanted to do, but never had the time or energy for. I went to bookstores and spent hours wandering through the shelves. I tried restaurants without checking whether someone else would like the menu. I bought clothes because I liked them, not because someone said they looked better on Emily. I dyed my hair a color I had always been curious about. The stylist asked if I was nervous. A little. Then why are you doing it? I looked at myself in the mirror. Because I want to. That was enough of a reason. My leg healed slowly. Some days were better than others. There were mornings when the scar ached, and I moved slower than I wanted. There were nights when I remembered the sound of everyone ignoring me. But those moments became less frequent. They stopped being my entire world. I made friends. Real ones. People who noticed when I was quiet. People who asked questions and actually listened to the answers. People who would say, "Are you okay?" and wait for the response instead of deciding they already knew. It was a weird feeling. Being cared for without having to earn it. One Saturday, my friends dragged me to a beach festival. I almost refused. I wasn't in the mood. I had work the next day. I was tired. I had a dozen reasons not to go. Then I remembered something. For years, I had spent my life making myself smaller because other people were uncomfortable. So I went. And I ended up staying until midnight. I ate food I couldn't pronounce. I laughed until my stomach hurt. I danced wildly. Someone recorded it and showed me the video later. I looked ridiculous. My hair was messy. My laugh was too loud. My dancing was terrible. I loved it. A year after leaving, I passed by a jewelry store. I saw a necklace in the window. Nothing extravagant. Just a simple silver chain with a small blue stone. I bought it. The woman at the counter asked if it was a gift. No. For someone special? I touched the necklace. Yeah. She smiled. Who? I smiled back. Me. I still had bad days. I still got angry. I still missed the family I wished I had. Leaving didn't magically erase 22 years. But I wasn't waiting for them to change anymore. I was busy living. When I heard Emily got engaged, I didn't feel the anger I expected. I just stared at the announcement for a while. Then I closed my phone. My friend looked over. You okay? I thought about it. And surprisingly, I was. Because their lives weren't mine anymore. That night, I went out with friends, ordered my favorite dessert, and stayed up too late talking about nothing. A completely normal night. The kind of thing I had spent years thinking I didn't deserve. Turns out, I did. The funny thing about people like them was that they didn't fall apart all at once. There was no dramatic courtroom scene. No single person walking in with a folder full of proof. Life was much slower than that. It was a series of little consequences finally catching up. Emily's first problem was that people stopped believing her apologies. For years, tears had been her escape route. A broken vase, a ruined event, a hurtful comment, a mistake. Every time, someone else ended up comforting her. But after the hospital records became public, people started asking uncomfortable questions. Not cruel questions. Reasonable ones. Why didn't anyone call an ambulance? Why was Daphne the one who left injured? Why did you post about your birthday instead of checking on her? Emily hated those questions because there was no emotional answer that worked anymore. Crying didn't explain anything. Her reputation didn't collapse overnight. It slowly changed. Friends who used to rush to defend her became less available. People stopped treating every story she told as proof she was innocent. When she complained that everyone was being unfair, some people quietly pointed out that Daphne had spent years being the one who was ignored. For the first time, Emily experienced what it felt like when nobody immediately took her side. My mother had the hardest time, because she couldn't understand why guilt wasn't enough. She kept calling, leaving messages, sending long paragraphs about how much she loved me. But every message had the same problem. They were always about her feelings. I miss you. I can't sleep. I feel horrible. I don't know how you can do this to your own mother. Never. I should have called the ambulance. I should have protected you. I should have listened. Eventually, I stopped opening them. Not out of anger. Out of peace. Elliot's downfall was quieter. He lost clients. Not because of the breakup. Because people started looking closer at the way he treated others. A former coworker mentioned how he took credit for other people's work. Another person remembered how he always seemed charming in public, but dismissive in private. The same personality that made him look impressive also made people realize he wasn't actually a very good person. The wedding cancellation cost him money. The reputation damage cost him more. The strangest part was that he tried to contact me one final time. Not to apologize. Not really. He wanted to explain. You know I loved you. I sat quietly. I think you loved the version of me that never complained, I said. He didn't answer. Because he knew. Years later, I saw a picture of the three of them online. Emily had a smaller social circle. My mother looked older. Elliot looked tired. They weren't ruined. They weren't living miserable lives. They were simply living with the consequences of their choices. And somehow, that was more fitting. Because they had spent years believing nothing they did mattered. That someone would always forgive them. That someone would always stay. They were wrong. Meanwhile, my life continued. Not perfectly. Not like a fairy tale. I still had problems. Bills. Bad days. Arguments with friends. Moments where I wondered if I had made the right choice. But when those moments came, I remembered that night. The cold air outside the house. The taxi driver who stopped. The stranger who shared her soup. The first people who helped me without needing me to be anything. And I knew. Leaving wasn't the thing that destroyed them. They destroyed their place in my life long before I walked away.